Nick, do you want me to depress you a little bit about how the Academy has yet to really move as far as it needs to?
Okay.
This movie we're talking about today is the only film, or at least the first film ever, and the only film currently where an African American won Best Actor being directed by an African American.
It's the only one.
Still hasn't happened since.
It's the only one. Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's we got some movement to do as far as like the Oscars goes, but
it's always like one step forward and then we go doo doo doo, and then it takes.
Yeah, it's painful enough when it's the first time something's happened, but to my knowledge, I don't think it's happened since either. So.
And I think it's one. We're going to talk about Training Day, and of course, this is the one that Denzel Washington won an Oscar, and this is kind of like one of those things that happens that people win their award for their accomplishments rather than what the movie is actually about. I think.
Well, yeah, because he's great in the movie, but he's great in everything. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the movie where he's still great, Training Day. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for finding us. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continued support of the show. Hey, you can support the show. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for details. You can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. Today, we're going to talk from 2001, Training Day, starring Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, so rookie cop Jake Hoyt gets his first shift, a training day, with L.A. narcotics officer Alonzo Harris. As Hoyt begins to peel back the layers of his new job, he butts heads with Alonzo, known to some for being worse than the criminals he enforces.
Okay, so this is directed by Antoine Fuqua.
Yeah.
Fuqua. We'll work on that. Fuqua. He had a high reputation for doing music videos. He was a sought-after music video director in the 90s before he started directing movies. In fact, he continued to direct music videos after he became movies. So he's still working in the movie directing music videos as well.
Never forget your first love, you know.
Yeah. And this is, I think, his second film. He did. I think he did Replacement Killers first, and then this is his second film, Training Day. He would go on to direct Tears of the Sun, Equalizer 1 and 2, and a couple other music videos. But I think he loves to shoot during the day. He loves that daylight time, that magic hour. He likes to even film the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's weird to say it, like, because this movie is about spending time on the streets, he has such an authentic visual look. Like, I think of that as, like, the city look of, like, how the daylight shines. It's not exactly always, it's not really sunny in this movie at all, but there's daytime, and it's like a darkness during the day that kind of pervades, you know, not really foggy, but just smoky, you know?
Yeah. This is it. It almost starts like a 90s film of, you know, the sunlight we're during a duration of a day, and then the alarm clock starts, but he's already awake, and he's nervous, and then he starts the family and everything, and then the whole business interaction of him and Alonzo, and Alonzo is not interested in him at all. So
yeah,
it kind of starts very 90s. It's, you know, it's 2001, so it's just going to bleed into a little bit. But I do like the start of it.
Yeah, I like the structure of it being like, it didn't even occur to me, this being my first time watching, it didn't occur to me that it was set over the course of a day. I just figured, like, I didn't really think about the fact it was a structure that was going to cover the time period of a day, that we weren't going to start before the training day, we weren't going to end after the training day. We were going to just begin and end on the day.
Right.
And for me, that's where, like, I think the structure works until it doesn't. As we get into some of the things we're going to talk about, I do think that the film is missing an extra scene at the end of the movie. You know, for those of you who've seen it, you know, like, the final shot of the film. But I feel like we need to know what happens next. Not all of what happens next, but just what happens immediately following that day.
There's a certain
vagueness
there's a lot
to
that
this.
happens. Yeah, there's a certain vagueness to it, especially when Alonzo goes and meets the guys at the restaurant.
Yeah.
It's kind of, even though that gets a little explained and it's a little bit, but there's like, not why we necessarily have to fit this into the day. Right. So there's been a lot of movies of all this takes place during the day, like the TV show 24 Hours or something like that. So, you know, we always talk about that. You can cram everything in an event of time is irrelevant in film, that you can cram everything that happened during the day in a 2-hour movie.
But I like that structure of the day, though. Like, and going back to even, like, for you Twin Peaks fans, that's a show where every episode is set on one day and the next episode is the next day. So that we get like that kind of progression of a story over time. And I think it's kind of cool being able to, how do we structure things that kind of fit? I like a good idea that's structured well. I do think they could have broken it. It's like the rule was made for the movie, but you can still break it and tell us what happens right afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's one of those films that is so well cast that even the bit players are names. Even the bit players are like people with a resume. You know, I mean, Scott Glenn has 2 scenes in the film, and I love Scott Glenn and everything.
He's got a great.
You
He
know?
does sit on the couch. It's great. I could do that. Yeah.
I mean, I could do 90% of that role. I wouldn't want to do the last 10%.
I can do take 20. I'm sitting on a couch for the whole movie. Yeah. All right. So Kyle's right. I agree. Supporting cast for this is phenomenally casted. You have Eva Mendes in this. You have Peter Green, who everybody knows from Usual Suspects and Pulp Fiction. Even Nick Chillen. From TV shows and stuff like that, and I think he done a couple other movies. And then you have, even the great rappers. You have Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, whose music gets in the movie as well.
Yeah, and I was reading that Eminem was being courted for the Hoyt character for a little while, which would have made a very interesting rapper's delight of people that were involved in the film, especially the interactions that he would have had with Dr. Dre throughout.
Cliff Curtis was the bad guy holding the shotgun. He's actually carried a couple movies from Switzerland. Yeah. So if you want to check out Spooked, isn't one of them from 2006. You want to check that out. It's mixed reviews movie, but he carries the movie very well. So he's an accomplished actor.
He's one of the leads in the Walking Dead spinoff, Fear the Walking Dead, and he is phenomenal in that show. Because that show is very mixed, like has ups and downs, but he carries every episode he's in. He is outstanding. And it's too bad that he does get a lot of these kinds of roles. In fact, the character he plays in Training Day feels almost like they just supplanted him and in the movie Reminiscence, which came out last year with Hugh Jackman. It's the same character pretty much. And it's disappointing that like he always gets the kind of like criminal kind of characters, like racially kind of placed in a spot for it, because he's so good at so many other things.
Right, and that's why I bring up the movie Spooked. If you find it, he plays a journalist uncovering a crime and everything like that. So he doesn't play this type that he always does. The next one, if you could spot, I think he doesn't get a casting credit, but Terry Crews is in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Does he get a credit? I think he does.
Not in the main titles, because he really doesn't speak, I don't think, in the movie either. Maybe he says one line, but when he first shows up, I saw the back of his head. And I was like, that head, I know. Like, I was like, is that Brooklyn Nine-Nine Terry Crews? And then, finally he turns around and gets one shot pretty much at the end of the movie. And I was like, oh, it is. Okay. Because that was at a point, where he was kind of used as like his physical appearance was the character he was hired for. Right. They didn't realize that he was funny, or that he's actually pretty solid when you put him in the right role.
And of course the legendary Tom Berenger, even though he's been carrying movies and been in Hollywood for many, many years, he's not afraid to just do spot a couple scenes of a movie. He likes that somebody else hand the keys to somebody else. So
I was introduced to minimalist Tom Berenger in the film Inception. That was one of the roles where I was like, wait, isn't he kind of a bigger name than the character he's playing in this movie?
I like that he's done this minimalist stuff now,
Yeah, and he's also fantastic. If you ever get the chance to find the show, it's a mini-series called Nightmares and Dreamscapes. It's 8 episodes long, and each one is adapting a different Stephen King story. And he played the road virus heads north, where he plays a writer that buys a painting that's following him on his drive home. It's incredible, and it's basically one guy in a car, so like he has to carry it. He's fantastic, but he's got one scene in this movie, and he's also with Harris Yulin for 24 fans out there, and also Ghostbusters 2.
Oh, that's right, he's from 24. I was thinking about
that. Raymond J. Barry, who I always will remember as being the dad from Walk Hard. There's 3 powerhouse performers playing those guys in that restaurant scene, and they're in one scene, and that scene is that's why I wouldn't want to get rid of it. It's because it's so good.
This movie is written by David Ayer. He wrote the screenplay for the first one, The Fast and the Furious, and SWAT. He went on to direct Suicide Squad. We can move on from there. But you can understand David's flavor of just high octane. You pretty much even the dialogue is high octane.
Yep. And he's a guy who's not willing, or he's very willing to defend his work. And what I mean by that is there was a whole thing going around when the film came out, and people said like drug enforcement officers would never smoke weed or do any of the drugs that they're doing, and he actually like pulled out a training manual that he had for research where he proved it. And it was kind of like, it was the same thing I remember like when Rian Johnson was hit about Last Jedi stuff, and he'd like pull out like Jedi textbooks he was reading, and it's like, you got to respect Ayer for doing his research. And I think it's something where when it happens in the movie, I was caught off guard, and I was like, but it makes sense. I bought it because that's another thing that Fuqua does very well, is he convinces you of the things that might be less convincing. He's got a very naturalistic way in which he shoots. That scene where he's introducing him, making him smoke the weed, that turns out not to be weed.
Making Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Almost like a peer pressure thing.
Yeah, but it's done so well that like I was swayed by. I was like, I'm not sure if that's what they're supposed to do, but that's what they're doing. It's kind of I'm in now. I'm in on that. So
yeah, it's very gangster like where you do it. So you do it. So now I know you commit a crime and I got something on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I was again being the first time I watched the movie.
But
I knew it was
sell it as initiation as well.
Yeah, exactly. The first time I watched the movie, being a training day, I figured that we were going to find out Alonso's character has some secrets, which we do. I was not prepared that those secrets were going to involve Jake so much more. The way that it breaks down and the way that he's kind of being used.
Background story with him very much. I don't sense like any kind of family. He's just kind of
Alonso.
Alonso. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's just kind of a force.
Yeah.
He's just there. He's like a gravity. Everybody, like we talk about, like in Writer's Workshop, he's the center. He's the gravity force throughout the whole story. Everybody comes to him, whether they like it or not. He pulls everybody in. He's kind of like the middle of the tangled web, right?
Well, the way I saw Alonso's character in the film is that when Alonso's character watches Apocalypse Now, he sides with Kurtz, and that he believes Kurtz is, and that's who he aspires to be. Basically, he's in the jungle, and he's made himself king, but he's not really. He sees
then he
himself
thumbs
in
his
that
nose
way.
at the Simpsons. Kurtz thumbs his nose at the Simpsons. He goes back to being a private and climbs the ladder all up again.
Yep.
And that's kind of, I could probably say Alonso, that's a tough guy right there. Does the whole things all over again to show that I'm better than you. Yeah.
He's a former criminal who's risen up to being a cop, sees himself as being good to the criminals, but he also basically holds them hostage. Yep. So he can get away with whatever he wants. But it's okay because I'm doing right. I'm letting these people have a second chance. When, if the guy is trying to rape a teenager, probably doesn't deserve a second chance right now. Like, he probably should serve some time first. Yeah. But he's like, I'll let him go because that's a small crime, and he'll learn from this.
And then what's in it for me, right?
Exactly.
I can use it against
And what I like about it is how Jake's character is, like, the whole idea of his character is that he is still trying to maintain a sense of good, of decency, and that actually aids him as the film goes on.
Yeah, it's something that I refer to and I label a barometer character, right? He's the one that it's his fresh new take, and it's our fresh new take of the world, right? We're going in the journey as well, so like, well, we're sensing it same as him, right? When he's like, "Hey, it's cool," then we're kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
When it's like, "You take the hit," you're not supposed to do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Jake's kind of the barometer for this. Is like the temperature gets high and low, and then all of a sudden when you realize he's screwed,
yeah.
Oh no, yeah. So yeah, it's I think Ethan's right for this role because of his constant expression face of like, oh my god.
Yeah, it said he was cast. They cast him for his innocence. He had quote unquote innocence, which I think if you think about him in like the Before Sunset, Before Sunrise movies, like. Yeah, he's got kind of an innocence to his quality, and that's again one of the reasons he was probably in Taking Lives is that he was cast for his innocent look.
Because he's got a complete difference in Taking Lives, right?
Yeah, but you definitely want him to look innocent in both those movies.
He's not innocent in Moon Knight.
No. But he is innocent looking.
So yeah, cinematography is by Marco Fiora. He's done. He won for Avatar, and then he did Smoking Aces with Tony Scott. He also did. Check out the cinematography and the editing for Get Carter. That was kind of like the new kind of trend. It set a new trend for that one. But they would go on to do other movies. Antoine and Mario, other films. They would do The Equalizer, Southpaw, and Magnificent Seven. So they've done a lot of movies together.
Yep. It's another case of take the good with you. Carry over the people that work with you well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we got great people across the board. Editing by Conrad Buff IV.
That's what surprised me. I was like, this is actually edited pretty good. Then I look back, of course it's edited pretty good. Yeah.
We've got the guy who's not willing to, or will very clearly give you a 3.5 hour Titanic movie, but isn't afraid to tell Cameron to cut 20 minutes out of T2. So. We've got, there's a strength in that.
Conrad Buff, he did Switchback too, which is actually a great edited movie. Not a great script, but it's a great edited movie. But I like the editing point of them at the cafe, and he edits it really cuts it really clean, but it's so dangerous. And it's just a cafe scene. It looks so dangerous.
We talking about the cafe with the
beginning of the movie.
Where they're meeting and having breakfast?
Yeah, meeting and having breakfast.
What a hostile way to meet your trainer.
and it looks like an action film when it's cut. But then he cuts to him walking the street, which is very fast. So the cars have to stop for Antoine. He doesn't care. Hit me, I don't care.
Yeah.
Which is very but it's cut very well.
Well, that goes back to, I mean, that diner. For fans of the show, we covered that diner previously when we talked about Seven. That's the same diner from that film.
It does look, it did.
So it's a diner that has been used in many a gritty crime film, and it works very well. But yeah, that goes back to, I guess, production design. Naomi Chaubon using great sets that are already there, ones that already have kind of an essence to them. And then, combining that with some strong cinematography, some strong direction from Fuquan, 2 very good performances.
This is a very L.A. crime story, but it has that, it almost looks like that looks and texture and feel of like Boys in the Hood.
Yep.
Where you're shooting this film and you're like, are you sure you're going to be cool to shoot this in this area?
Well, again, just like Boys in the Hood, they made deals with the local gang members to allow them to shoot, and they had to give them roles in the film. So there are some local gang members of where they were shooting appearing as extras throughout the film, probably in that that the one
by
kind
security
of
and well, you coming in my area, I can
so
understand
deals had to be made, which I'm sure made things a little complex when you're filming, especially when you have like bigger names, not even just big name like actors, but just Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg being on set for like a day or two. Those are big name musicians, man. Not big name actors so much, but like they carry a lot of insurance with them. So.
I know Snoop Dogg scene is pretty good. It's effective, right? I mean, even it's almost like they shot in a closet, that interrogation. I don't know how they set the camera like on a box and just go, but overall, I think I have the same kind of critique problems that a lot of film critics had at the time. It's kind of a slop, where there's some fantastic things in it, but it's just overall there's some things that need to be cleaned up for it to be effective. I really love the first and second act of the film, and I think the third film just tries to over bombard us with a lot of stuff, the things that it needs to do that I don't think it needed to do. I don't think you need that big shotgun glorified ending at the end with the Russians and everything, but I think, or the big standstill, speech at the end where he's trying to convince them, I'm the neighborhood, I'm king, I'm better than King Kong.
I think the film is missing context in that third act, because I don't think we get enough of what happened in Vegas, what happened with the Russians, all this stuff in Alonzo's past. I would have liked context. It doesn't need to exactly be flashback if you want to stick to your training day idea, but I need a context for what's happening, because there's a lot of puzzle pieces you're putting together that you don't exactly have the grooves for.
Yeah, if you watch the movie, there is an intent, the reasoning why Jake is involved in this.
Yeah.
And if so, it becomes like, oh, you're not here just to do a job, you're here to
which I thought was interesting. But then we kind of miss the bits and pieces of context as that plays out. And again, there's so much stuff that happens that kind of rides that, not even rides it, it's illegal, but like it rides the line of what can you get away with, that I would have loved to have a stinger at the end, explaining how people outside of these two viewed this training session, because something clearly didn't go well. And so, spoiler alert, but when Jake goes home at the end of the film, goes inside, goes to sleep, does he go back to work the next day? Is he going to be questioning about killing this guy?
Right, because we know from Bullets, Steve McQueen, he gets his paperwork done the next day.
Yeah, so what is going to happen?
After
I
all
want to know what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
And I know there was a short-lived TV show starring Bill Paxton that does, I guess it's a follow-up because they reference the film characters. Right. It ran for a season, but Bill Paxton tragically passed away after the first season was done, so they did not continue the show. What interests me is that there is currently being written a prequel that covers a young Alonzo during I believe the 92 riots. That is very interesting to me, because that might provide that context as far as kind of like making one of those films that would make this film better. It's nice to have a film that can make its predecessor a better movie. But there's little things that bother me. The context issue. I think when Denzel Washington is holding his guns, he's got kind of like a marionette look to him that I don't know if I really buy the intensity of that.
No.
But when he speaks, he owns it, so that's really nice. There's just bits and pieces that I'm kind of like chipped away at.
So yeah, overall, I think great characters make up for a good story.
Yeah.
And this is a great character. I don't think the story is all that fantastic, and it's so much like the Fast and Furious. I think they had great characters. I don't think the story hijacking TVs.
Yeah.
Is all that great. But great characters make up for it.
Yeah, there's a reason those characters that Ayer crafted in Fast and the Furious have gone on to going into space and fighting robot people. Like, there's a reason that they've continued to make those movies, and that's because Ayer does put together very good characters. And that's the same thing I faulted with Suicide Squad. Is I think his first Suicide Squad film had a great squad, just not a great mission. You know, and that's, again, he crafts these fantastic characters, but it's just kind of putting them, putting them in a story that fits them.
It's almost like the mission, for the mission, it seems kind of milquetoast for what they should have been.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think overall, Ayer has a great eye for character. Fuqua has a great eye for character, and so that's where the film is at its strongest. That's always where those two guys have their biggest strengths.
And that's what the Oscar likes, is like if they want to nominate somebody that really, when you think about a movie, the first thing is like, wow, that person on the cover, on the center, does carry the movie, that character, and everything else is secondary. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
because I think having one great element can save. I'm not saying that they save a bad movie or anything like that, but this is a character piece, and those performances carry the movie all the way across. With two lesser actors, I don't know if the movie would be half as successful.
And it's a lot of times you don't win the Oscar for the movie you should have. You usually win the Oscar for people saying, wow, we messed up the last two times. This is the one we should, because he should have at least got nominated for Crimson Tide. He got nominated for Malcolm X and missed, and then people are like, well, let's get him this time because we really missed out the last two times.
Well, and his win was seen as an upset over Russell Crowe for A Beautiful Mind, which I'm not the biggest Beautiful Mind fan, but that performance, again, is one that if he had won, I would have understood it. So it's interesting they have such an upset for that.
Russell Crowe went on to win it for Gladiator.
Yeah, they all win things.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I think he's doing fine.
I still don't have one. So.
I think he's in the new Russell Crowe's going to be in the new Thor: Love and Thunder movie. So
yeah,
we'll see what he's doing recently. But yeah, but Denzel, he's already admitted that he's fine just doing Shakespeare from now on. He does not interested in doing these kind of movies anymore.
Yeah, but he's coming back for Equalizer 3 with Fuqua.
I know,
so,
right? And that's why I want to bring it up. So he's like, on the Oscar night this year, he's like, I'm not really interested in doing any of these action movies anymore. If I do Shakespeare for the rest of my life, I'm comfortable. But he's doing Equalizer 3. And
I'm technically, I'm fine with Denzel doing things like plays, because I think he's really great in Fences. Like, again, I would love to see him doing more of that kind of adaptations of plays, even if they're not Shakespeare traditionally. Any like performance where he gets to just speak. And there was a rumor going around that he was being courted to play our new Professor X or Magneto in X-Men, because they were going to kind of go with a different angle with the characters. And I was like, oh, that'd be interesting. But I just don't know if that's really what he wants. I don't want him to have it if he doesn't want it.
I think that's why he's out loud with it. He's comfortable doing like whoever did the playwright Fences.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Shakespeare stuff, and that's what he's comfortable doing for the rest of his life. There's a sense of with Alonzo, and I wish I had that speech of him realizing that he's wrong, and I don't get that. He's constantly I have to do it this way, constantly doing that way. I have to do it this way, this way, this way. Where I think if he just had one little snippet of, even around the neighborhood, hey, I screwed up. Go ahead and kill me.
But that's I don't want that. That's where we differ. I don't want him to realize he's wrong. I want him to be Kurtz. I want him to be, the man who, goes out like a whimper, And that's kind of what he does. Is he gets that scene where he's out there and King Kong ain't got nothing on me, which was ad-libbed. And then he, he peters out, basically. He kind of gets tired of like prognosticating and bombastic yelling, and kind of like whimpers out of his little like.
And that's
speech.
where you end the movie.
And yeah, that would have been a good spot to end it.
But you need this shootout that I understand David Ayer's screenplay. I understand the movie's kind of lull at the point that you need something.
Yeah, it needs something there.
Yeah, you need something there. But as we can see, writers, that you need something there. But I like that if it ends that speech in the neighborhood where he's losing his power, and then he just gets arrested and taken away. We have something there. But after the shootout, you need something with Ethan Hawke that.
Because again, now you have a former cop, Roger, weed dealer, that is dead. You have Alonzo that is dead. These are two deaths that have taken place on Jake's first day, and it's like we need some clarification. Is he gonna get in a lot of trouble? You need
something like L.A. Confidential had, where the good guy cleans. Yeah, you need somebody who has medals and citations and clean this up and now write the report.
Yeah. Even if it was him sitting down with Tom Berenger's character or something like that, and him being like, "We know what happened."
Knock on his door in the office.
Yeah, Yeah. So overall, like, it's a great movie. It just has one of those little like chips away at you things where like you notice things that take you out a little bit at a time.
Last thing before I bring it up, they really flush out your female characters. My God, anytime you see a female character, either the mom or the accountant or even Mendez with their clothes out for some reason.
She's the only real female character, right, in the film?
Right.
Like the only one that really has like general speaking lines.
Yeah, the wife and the mom. It shows that she's a mom, obviously. But
I guess Macy Gray's character. But yeah. The women are all kind of portrayed as either naked or yelling.
Right. So, develop them out. I mean, even in Fight Club, Ellen Bonham Carter's character is even flushed out a little bit. Even all the female characters in that movie is flushed out a little bit. And that's a male, masculine kind of a movie.
Yeah, I think I have no issue with a movie that has got like 10 male actors in the movie. Like, just like that it's an entirely male cast, like, you know, that kind of like the thing. I don't need there to be a female character if it is a group of guys. But
even
if you have
City
one in
flushed
your
out
movie,
its female characters.
Yeah. There should be at least like, give me one exchange that's providing a little bit more context.
But if your kid is at home and you got your boyfriend over and then the guy pops the door open and Alonso's fully dressed and armed, but you're butt naked on this, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You're naked for the movie, which I'm not complaining about even Mendez being naked, but it just doesn't, like, why?
Yeah, live your life,
you obviously
girl,
know why. Is because, well, you're naked. You got to be in the movie. Right, it's a movie, right?
It's a movie. We're talking pictures here.
Movie, right, yeah. But it's just, yeah. So develop your female characters a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, she gets more to do in Too Fast, Too Furious.
I think she was in that one, right?
Yeah, she was. So obviously we both like the movie, right?
Yeah. Mild thumbs up.
Oh, okay. Mine's more heavy thumbs up, but still not.
I'll go like
Yeah. It was one where my wife didn't know I was watching it, and she was like, I really wanted to watch that with you. And I'm like, I watch too many movies. You just got to deal with it. But she loves it, and I really liked it and would like to revisit it sometime soon. So.
Right. And I think it's one of those things that it's two people talk about it, they're going to have this kind of a conversation. It's really phenomenal to me. It's like, there's some things really great about it, but some things that really need to be flushed out. Yeah.
So what do you think about Training Day? Where does it land on your Fuqua ranking? I know there probably is one out there. Tell us your Antoine Fuqua film
there you go.
Can cover next. There's a lot of those movies, and there's a couple I've seen, a couple I haven't seen. I'm a fan of Olympus Has Fallen. I would like to kind of spread my wings on the Fuqua train a little bit more. So let us know your thoughts down below. And while you're down there, don't forget you can like and subscribe. They're 2 free things that you can do that help support the channel immensely, and they make sure you never miss new episodes, because we got new episodes Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays. We're back with new episodes, guys. We got some new equipment here. We're bringing you the best kind of show we can. So thank you guys for joining us. And you can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts.